together. Now, what are the critical issues that the two main political parties, the NDC and the NPP, have for us in this regard? Tonight, in the Joy News studios, we're bringing you a debate between these two juggernauts. For you, we're not going to decide for you to decide for yourselves what exactly their positions are and how this will feed into our national life. Yes, there is the ministry in charge of sanitation and water resources. There's COP29 currently ongoing, and the different messaging. But the point is, what in the end do these two have for us as Ghanaians? We're having that all-important debate tonight, right here in our studios. We're also live on your Joy News channel, also on digital TV, Go TV channel 124, on myjoyonline.com and Joy 99.7 FM. Now, before we take a breather, before we come into the studio, so you actually see my guests and that we can engage them, there are some lay-down rules that I'm going to put forward before we get to them. But even before that, let me just make mention of the fact that we have these two stalwarts from the different political parties. I'm talking about the NPP and the NDC joining us tonight. So to my right tonight, I have joining the conversation Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu. He is a former member of parliament for Bantama, executive director of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. He's also the presidential special envoy on the Climate Vulnerable Forum. You do know that for years, Ghana has had the leadership of that forum with our president heading that portfolio. Then we come to the National Democratic Congress to my left, and we have Professor Nana Ama Brown Kluche. She is a member of the NDC's Natural Resources Mining Science Committee, and she is a doyen in this. She's an academic, well-resourced in these matters. It's going to be, I don't want to call it a straight fight. It's going to be a straight dissection of ideas tonight between these two. And we also have, joining the conversation, experts who would help us situate the conversation and also make us know what exactly is being said. Truth or not, we're going to be fact-checking tonight, right here during this debate. And those who will be providing these services, who are doubling as judges, we have engineer Odro Donko. He is with ProNet Accra. Let's just acknowledge them. We also have Basilia Nambigne, executive secretary of CONIWAS. Both of them join us for this conversation. Having said that, let me lay the ground rules for these discussions or the debate we're about to have, after which we'll take a breather and return shortly. This debate will consist of 3 rounds. 3 rounds, each lasting some 20 minutes. Now, during each round, candidates will answer 3 questions, main questions. There will be follow-ups on these questions. In terms of time allocation, each candidate has 3 minutes to respond to a question, and we're going to be vehement on that. 3 minutes to deliver your response to a question. We have our timekeeper, Stephen, who will signal when time is up. Stephen, I want to hear the sound of that bell, if you may. I think we can ring it louder. Okay, so debaters, when you hear that bell, it means your time is up and you have to stop talking or wrap up, summarize your thoughts. After each round, the panel of judges will have 5 minutes to ask follow-up questions to the candidates. I'm talking about the 2 judges I've already mentioned. And then we shall take some commercial breaks. And also note that our candidates are going to be encouraged to be precise in their answers and adhere strictly to the time allocated. Honorable Dr. Kokofu, ground rules set. Are you okay with that?
Very much so.
Prof, are we okay? On the same page?
Sure.
All right. Ghana 4, I am your quiz master, if you like. My name is Benjamin Akako. It's a pleasure hosting you. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to our national debate on wash and climate change. Of course, we are your home of independent, credible journalism. Now tonight, as I've already indicated, we have the two political stalwarts in our studios, and I'm going to be posing certain questions to them. They are going to be debating from their policy angles, their frameworks, what they have in store for you ahead of election 2024. So if we're good to go, Prof. Honorable?
Yep.
All right. Time now for us to dig in. I want Stephen to, one more time, give me what that bell sounds like. Aha, that is it. And so when you hear that bell, it means you're being called to order. We must proceed. So the very first bit I'm going to be presenting to both of them. I'll start with you, Dr. Kokofu. As far as the New Patriotic Party is concerned, you are beautifully decked in those red, white, and blue. But what do you have in store in your manifesto in terms of water, sanitation, hygiene, and how exactly is your party planning for these policies to address the current gaps in terms of access to safe water and the provision of sanitation in Ghana? You have your first bite. Go.
Thank you very much. I'll be speaking from New Patriotic Party Manifesto 2024 for the elections, and it is dubbed Selfless Leadership, Bold Solutions for Jobs. And precisely, page 30, protect our environment. You come to appreciate that under Article 12, you have protect and preserve our water resources by vigorously protecting both surface and underground sources by enforcing the provisions of water use regulations, reviewing and strengthening the water buffer zone policy for implementation, protecting transborder water resources, notably the Volta River, and effectively managing all major water basins in the country. Having said that, you can go forward to the environment section itself. That's page 2002. We're saying that the quality of environment, the integrity of the natural forest landscape, and all that water resources have suffered some challenges over the years, despite all that we've been done over the past years under the Akufo-Addo administration, where we continue to take steps to strengthen Ghana's environmental action plans with a focus on the Ghana Climate Change Policy Master Plan, Climate Smart Agriculture Action Plan, Energy Transition Plan for the energy sector, Ghana Red Plus Strategy for Forestry, and the e-vehicle policy, among others. We have also done integrated recycling and composting plans. But then, as I said, challenges still remain. So, under the next administration, we will offer both solutions in addition to policies already developed to ensure a safer, greener, and cleaner environment revolving broadly around increase in the enforcement of environmental standards and compliance across all sectors of our country. It will be recalled that our water bodies have suffered quite a lot of degradation, and the next government intends to undertake what we call rehabilitation, restoration, and also bringing back the water bodies to life through desiltation and then planting trees along the water course. This will be done in a form of business running. We're going to encourage private sector to come in and then also to make sure we restore the degraded water bodies whilst we encourage tree planting and then also get the water back to its life.
Thank you very much. And that is the first bite taken by Dr. Kokofu, who has shared his party's thoughts. Interesting dynamics. I have my own questions for you, but I'm going to save them. And I'm going to come to Prof. Now, you're also fabulously decked in your own attire, getting ready to shoot. On that same point, in terms of water, sanitation, hygiene, resources, sanitation has been a crucial issue in our country. Access to water. What exactly is the policy of the NDC in this regard?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think the NDC is committed to WASH And this is based on the past history or what the NDC has done in the past. I mean, I will not go deeper into the past, but in the manifesto, we can put 4 categories of action planned in the manifesto. So improving or expansion of urban water supply and distribution. We have the rural water supply and distribution. We have the improvement of drainage and irrigation systems, and then the health facility infrastructure as well, all coming under WASH. So whilst I have some time, I'll go deeper into each of these points. So for urban water supply, in the manifesto, I think page 65, 66, 67, 68, we'll find this information there of the NDC manifesto. So in the manifesto, we promise to provide portable water to all communities. We are mindful of SDG 6, where every citizen, in fact, water is a basic need, a primary need for every citizen. And achieving the SDG 6, where portable water is for everyone's right to have, the NDC will provide portable water, expand and extend water distribution network. The NDC did it in the past. John Mahama and his administration had done a lot of water projects, and if I can mention a few, the water supply projects, the expansion of Berekese projects. So we are committed to expansion of water. So these are urban water supplies. There's one key point under this policy is to also equip the 48th Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Army to provide portable water to rural communities. And we're targeting especially communities that are living around fresh water or near fresh water to supply water to them. We have also in the manifesto to construct water storage facilities, especially for rainwater storage and provision of pipe-borne water for people. So we are very much interested in the rain storage because we receive a lot of rain in terms of amount and almost distributed to almost throughout the year, but then we still do suffer from water supply. So we have in our manifesto this point, and also to upgrade the existing water supply system, replace over-age pipes and improve and ensure equitable water for everyone. It's okay.
You can conclude your thoughts. When the bell goes, just
I could conclude. So we have also to improve drainage and irrigation system, especially in our urban communities as well. We know how our drainage system is at the moment, and we want to improve upon that as well.
All right. So let me just make clear, when you hear the bell, you don't need to truncate your thoughts abruptly. You can just conclude on it, but make it very brief. So you've heard the two parties respond from different angles as far as what policies they are looking at. I have, like I said, a lot of questions on my mind, but after this round, the judges will come in, and then I'll also come in with my follow-up questions. Now, back to you, Dr. Kokofu. I noticed you were reading plenteously from your party's documentation, your manifesto earlier. But how does that same document address the impacts of climate change on WASH infrastructure? You heard your colleague just talk about some of them. Infrastructure such as freshwater scarcity and river depletion, and what adaptive strategies are in place in that document, and how do you hope to actualize them?
Well, the storm water drainage and flood control and coastal protection problem has to do with climate change impacts and effects. So the next government of New Patriotic Party is going to be able to undertake national flood control program. 10 kilometers of new drains have been constructed already, and 36 kilometers of drainage channels are in lining up, bringing relief to many communities across the country. In addition, there's an investment of $350 million to deal with this perennial flooding in the Odo Basin. through the World Bank-funded Garrett project. And this is ongoing, and the next government is very much committed to continue with this. The sanitation infrastructure, we've instituted fundamental structural reforms aimed at harmonizing the management and delivery of sanitation services across the country. And we also do know that climate change have effects on healthcare facilities and giving pressure to these facilities. So there is a need to ensure that healthcare facilities are given wash services improved upon. And the Ghana Health Services have undertaken an extraneous account, thereby having data to be able to work on. So the next government is very much on course under Bawumia presidency, which I'm very much sure is going to be. We will undertake the necessary structural reforms aimed at revolutionizing and managing the delivery of wash services across the country through the 3 R's, the recycling, reuse, and recovery, to instill efficiency, effectiveness, and economic viability in the sector. The water resources management will review and strengthen the water buffer zone policy for implementation. And this also calls for underground water management and then harvesting of rainwater, and then the use and reuse of wastewater treatment after it's being used. There will be an aggressive implementation of the National Water Policy of 2024 to deal with the current challenges in the water supply sector. Again, you strengthen the Water Resources Commission to focus on its core mandate. And then there is also a planning and maintenance regime in place that will rigorously enforce spatial and fiscal planning regulations, where GWSA, that's Community Water and Sanitation Agency, is taking up about 400 new non-performing water systems for reconstruction, install solar farms to provide solar energy as part of the energy mix to reduce its operational cost, implement technology improvements to achieve targets, and complete all water systems under construction by 2025.
Thank you for addressing that question on the impact of climate change on wash infrastructure. And we are talking about the depletion of some of our water resources. Some dynamics contribute to that, but some of them created by we ourselves. Prof, that same end to you. You've already started talking about a few of them, but what exactly is the plan?
Thank you very much. The NDC is mindful of the threats from climate change. And so in the manifesto, we had promised to enact and pass the National Climate Change Law. That's one of the
National Climate Change Law.
Law, yes, it's in the manifesto. And we will also work to enhance the climate resilient sensitive sectors, including agriculture, water resources, energy, fisheries, and infrastructure, which includes the wash infrastructure. We want to align the national efforts and policies that's aligned with international effort also to support our infrastructure in the country, because climate change is global, and so we need to align with global policies like the warming of 1.5 degrees Celsius. The country has prepared its nationally determined contribution on how we all contribute to reduce global warming. More importantly, Ghana, the NDC is going to enhance Ghana's participation in climate change diplomacy for Ghana to shape its global decision, contribute to global decisions appropriately, and all of this should come to the interest of Ghana to reduce the impact of climate change on our peace and security and prosperity. Whilst I still have some time, I need to also mention that once we facilitate our transition to renewable energy resources, it's eventually translates to every aspect of the economy. I'd mentioned earlier on that I mentioned irrigation systems. So the NDC will expand irrigation system also to support water supply to agricultural infrastructure as well, and agricultural lands as well. So the NDC's commitment is clearly, as I said earlier on, stated in the manifesto. And we believe that the impact of climate change, especially on our water bodies, will be curbed if we follow the resilient plan of climate change. It's also in the manifesto. We also know that our impact, our human activities is also destroying our water bodies. We don't want to mention Galamsey, but the NDC has a lot of information on mining sector in the manifesto. We want to rehabilitate water bodies and actually reclaim the lands that have been destroyed by this mining activities at the various sites as well. So these are many points that will help restore back our national settings. If you look at the coastal communities, we are suffering from coastal erosion, and it is clear when you go around the country at the coastal cities. Each city along the coast, most of them are actually struggling with coastal erosion, and thus depleting the properties in these coastal areas. So once we go on the resilient part, we will be able to restore back our properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. And that is the second bite in this first round. In case you just joined the conversation, we're having that national debate on WASH, water sanitation and hygiene, and climate change. We're already facing the brunt of it, but for these two juggernauts of political parties that we have here, what are their plans? And that is why tonight we have this debate in your interest so that you can decide which one works better for you and which way to go. We are not deciding for you. You do that for yourself. There's a little timer now available to us on our screens so that everything is pretty transparent. We're coming back into the studio, and I'm coming to you, Dr. Kokofu. So if you look at WASH, water sanitation and hygiene, it does not operate in a vacuum. Yeah. It must be integrated to other aspects of our national life, including health. Now we have a cholera, situation on our hands, outbreak. So how is this going to be integrated into health, education, and then have the ripple effect on our economic growth? That is my next bit to you. Your time starts now.
Yes. If you recall, the President of the Republic has signed a presidential compact on water, sanitation, and hygiene. And in that compact, it's looking at about 1.7 billion annually to be expended in these areas, initiatives until 2030. And these funds will ensure that wash services reach schools and healthcare facilities as well as remote communities. And these come in hand as we go into the services to the wash. Now, the compact seeks to, and the next government will have to do that, establish a national sanitation authority, which will support the government's efforts to eliminate, say, open defecation and other things. Furthermore, the national climate strategy will include building climate resilient water and sanitation infrastructure services, ensuring the country is ready to the challenges posed by the increasing droughts and floods. These are very, very impacting on agricultural produce. And if agriculture so suffers, recently we saw what happened with the Bagri Dam where farms were destroyed and all those things. Once we're able to do that, we'll be able to save agriculture from that. Then also the health facilities are overwhelmed when the dry season or the drought periods increases malaria incidence and other waterborne diseases. So these are all major interventions that we seek to do. Now, the Bawumia government will bring on board increased public spending on sustainable waste delivery by reducing the economic impact of poor sanitation. And here it is on record, Ghana loses $290 million annually. That is $12 per person per year, equal to 1.6% of the GDP, 1.6% of the GDP. So drastically reduce the 60 million Ghanaians who use shared lavatories. And once you're able to do this, you are enhancing the health the health potentials of people, and also bringing diseases down. It is also known that open defecation costs $79 million per year, yet eliminating practice worldwide requires less than 1 million latrines to be built and used. And this Bawumia government is committed to do that. We will ensure that we leverage on private capital and expertise in these sectors for climate smart projects designed in order to contain these difficulties. And one particular thing is we have a professor, Dr. Vishikari, who has a rural communities water project for 4,000 communities, vulnerable communities,
right.
boreholes that can be installed, and all this will lead into the economic life of the people and improve water supply.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kokofu. I'll come to you, Prof, on that same point. Integrating WASH into our national life. What does the NDC have on offer?
Thank you very much. So I earlier on mentioned the expansion of rural water, urban water, and the irrigation system and drainage system. For the district assemblies, integration of WASH also into the district assemblies, the NDC is committed to increasing or strengthening the allocation of the 5% that from GET fund to the common district assemblies common fund. It's going to have an increase from 5% to 8%. Thus, we believe will strengthen the development at the district assemblies level, where the district can provide, build, or develop KVIPs and for its people to avoid, as he said earlier on, open defecation and the use of other ways and means for people in our various, should I say, rural communities, even urban communities. So the NDC is also having the intention not to increase the ministries. So John Mahama had promised that under his administration, he's going to go for 60 ministers, and that will help save some money that is used at the central government. Some will go down to the district assemblies level to support the development at the district assemblies. So that is basically that, and the many other projects that the NDC is committed in doing. The University of Health and Allied Sciences at Ho that the NDC had put up, also dedicated to WASH, especially for health aspects and sanitation. It's also in our community, so training of expertise, getting back into our communities and societies will equally help improve the sanitation. And education in general. So I believe that the support of John Mahama's policy to provide free tertiary education will help a lot of our youth and young people to choose going to tertiary level, and that will also improve the education level of the country and will eventually improve our sanitation and hygiene in the country.
Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts. And in case you just joined us, our two debaters this evening, Professor Nanama Brown-Kluche from the NDC's end. She's a member of the NDC's Natural Resources Mining Science Committee, and from the NPP's end, Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, of course, a member of the NPP's Manifesto Committee and head of the Environmental Protection Agency. I am now, former, yes, indeed, former. I am now going to acknowledge WaterAid for helping us come through with this national debate. Of course, without their help, we wouldn't be here. But I'm going to cede to our judges now as we get their quick reflections. So far, you have heard the two sides. We've brought you in because of your expertise, your know-how, how you can filter down to the issues, practicality, reality, and of course, if they are not telling us the truth, we want you, through your articulation, to point out where the frailties are. I'll start with you, Basilia, Executive Secretary of CONIWAS. What are your reflections on the two of them? Where are you starting from, Basilia?
Okay, so listening to the two, I see that they have touched on issues around the sector, like current issues, and I'm happy with where they want to go, both parties. But let me start with Honorable here. Maybe let me go to, initially I wanted to ask him, the first question that had to do with watch delivery. I didn't hear so much on the delivery side, but later I think he was able to chip in a lot of things they wanted to do.
In subsequent questions.
In subsequent questions, yes.
Right.
So I will leave that question because it's been answered. But I would like to ask him, especially working with EPA, or who had worked with EPA, you know, we have the national roadmap on plastics, and we were talking about reuse, recycling, and stuff. I want to know whether you've considered implementing the recommendations from that roadmap. That's the national, the Ghana impact with all partners developed.
Yes, you'll recall that there is, before the Parliament of Ghana, the Environmental Protection Authority Bill. In that bill, you have a well-repackaged, a comprehensive mandate based on deliverables to be enacted into law. And it had considered the nationally determined contributions. It has also considered the UNFCCC deliberations and all that, including all the various COPs initiatives that plastics also play a key role. And let me say that part 5 of that document deals basically with climate change issues, of which plastics and all my plastic policies and all those things, carbon trading, carbon financing mechanisms are all in there. So there's that thing that has been taken care of. We are just waiting for Parliament to pass into law. And Ghana will have one of the best legal documents that will help deal with all the environmental infractions that we do have. We will have EPA that can bite, EPA that will be a quasi-security institution, EPA that can cause arrest, that can prosecute environmental offenders and criminals. As we speak now, EPA do not have those powers, and it's all remain at the policy levels, and enforcement has become quite difficult. But as what you're referring to, MESTI, which is the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology.
Dr. Kukofu, you have 2 minutes for that, so your time is
are the main agencies dealing with. And so EPA being its agency, its working arm, has taken up that challenge. And in that law, we have very serious provisions in there to deal with that menace.
All right. Do you have, Basilia, do you have anything for the NDC's candidate?
Yes.
So let me just say that the responses you will give for this session must not be more than 2 minutes. You can do less, but not more than 2 minutes.
All right.
Please go ahead.
So you want to expand rural water, but we have the Community Water Sanitation and Sanitation Agency, which is the national agency responsible for rural community. But I heard you mention 48 engineers. I was wondering why you are not using the National Institution for Rural Water Delivery.
Okay, so so the 48 Engineers Regiment is the army, a section of the army that helps with community work. Okay, so that's we have already what you mentioned, but we have not reached the target that we need to reach. We agree on this. We know that there's still, from your manifesto, there's still a good percentage of Ghanaian population that do not have access to basic water, which means that the capacity that we have now is low, and we need to add more, improve upon the capacity to provide water for the rural communities, also the urban communities.
So I was thinking, a follow-up question, that one of the reasons why probably CWC hasn't been able to reach there is the financing. And so if you were to equip CWC very well, they could do that delivery.
Yeah, so that is not the only point I had made earlier on. So apart from improving through the different ways, let me just add here. So we have expand and extend water distribution network in urban centers to meet rising demand. So that is one of actions that will be done under the administration of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. The other one, that is to equip the 48th Engineers Regiment of the Ghana Army, is to improve upon the capacity. I understand the issue of the finance, but it's all because we draw from the same central government. Once we do decentralization, as the NDC proposes, we'll be able to achieve all of these actions and empower these local institutions on their mandates.
All right. Let me now come to Engineer Donko as well. What will be your reflections for the two of them?
Yeah, I think broadly they have articulated, the issues that we face as a sector. And I'm very happy about that. Except that I have a few questions maybe for the two of them. They have, most of their discussions had looked at urban water and the bigger cities. These are areas where the rate of returns is very high, and therefore anybody will be tempted to want to invest into it. The SDG says that nobody should be left behind.
Right.
There are smaller communities we called last mile communities. I want to know what they would do as a party, as parties, when elected, to address the water resource, the worst challenges in the last mile communities, as, we call it within the sector.
So that's a question for both of them?
For both of them, yes.
All right.
How do we address
Prof.
These are very critical things for me as an operator working in communities.
Have your back.
I think we have to,
Yeah.
we should know how we are going to deal with these last mile communities to make sure that nobody is left behind.
Sure. So I'd mentioned in my very first submission that the NDC will also expand rural water supply and distribution. I didn't go into the details. We have 8 points which I'm going to read to you. It's going to convert the Community Water Sanitation Agency into Water Company Limited to enhance service delivery and sustainability. It's going to rehabilitate and convert rural underground, groundwater system, solar mechanized system, and construct new system in underserved communities. So that will address especially your concern. And we'll also utilize scientific data, which includes space applications to implement groundwater, dams, rainwater mentioned earlier on, flood water harvesting systems to local communities that may need them. We're going to also reduce water costs, importantly, and especially through strategic investment in storage, transmission, distribution, and then infrastructure development. We're going to strengthen regulatory bodies, including the EPA, Water Research Commission, CSIR, Ghana Water Company Limited, and others to provide regular updates on water, soil, and air quality. So there are 8 points, as I said. I've mentioned 5. If you allow me, I'll end with the...
No, we don't have that much.
Maybe my last point on that, to provide boreholes for areas without potable water and areas that are not living near water, fresh water resources. So we have deep drilling to get clean water tables to supply them with water, especially in the Galamsey areas.
Thank you very much. Both judges and debaters as well, let me just let you know that we have just about an hour to go. We have 2 more rounds, so we have to let our responses and our questions be straight to the point. And I'm going to limit the time to 1 minute, unfortunately. So let's do this.
So just be leveraged. To your question, Akufo-Addo-led administration, after investing over $2 billion in water supply within the large communities, cities, and all that, there's also the need to cater for the smaller communities. So the Community Water and Sanitation Agency is quite viable and doing a great job. All it needs to do is to recapitalize and encourage them to do more. There's the construction, we will do so by infrastructure. That's 190 communities has already gotten improved water delivery systems. And it runs over 40,000 boreholes in 1,200 small town water subsector to private sector investments as small water enterprises. And there are currently about 4 such enterprises operating over 100 small and micro water systems in the country. So there's a need to enhance that kind of activity. And how do we do that? Under Bawumia presidency, we ensure that the objective of economic growth, industrialization, urbanization, and rural development will be achieved by getting these things. And I have here, if you would like to know, the private sector involvement and then non-governmental actors also coming in to help. This is a typical example of a private sector undertaking community water development through ultramodern chlorination, automatic chlorination systems with boreholes constructed with real-time disinfection being applied at the community areas. So there's 4,000, this is for 4,000 communities that the Vice President has already engaged a professor in Australia to undertake.
Thank you.
We will double these things
Thank you.
as we go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, judges. We don't have that much. How? Okay, so we're going to take a breather when we return. But judges, your questions must also be straight to the point. Straight to the point. We're taking a breather here. Hopefully you're enjoying this debate. We're putting the two major political parties on the spot. We're, getting their feet to the fire of accountability. And it is all because you need to decide. We're taking a breather. When we return, more on this debate. And here we are back again in the national interest. It is our manifesto debate on WASH and climate change. What do these parties, the NDC and the MPP, have in store for all of us? Right before we took the break, Engineer Drew, you had a little bit you wanted to add on. Very briefly, you'll do that. I'll come in with my thoughts, and then we go to round two. Now, debaters, round one focused on the vision and policy framework. But then we're going to be talking about implementation, financing. It's one thing saying it, it's another thing being able to roll it out. Engineer Drew, you have that.
Yeah, I was going to say that we are so concerned about climate change and how it impacts our wash systems and water resources. But then we have not been very active and effective in integrating WASH into planning and designs. How do we, as the two parties, intend to do that moving forward, knowing that climate change is hitting us right in the face?
All right, 30 seconds each. What's your response to that?
I didn't quite understand the question. So we're focusing on climate change and not focusing on WASH?
Yes, climate resilient in WASH planning and designs. How do you deal with that?
Yes, so I think providing potable water or water access, it's one way to empower the citizenry to improve upon their sanitation. And in terms of climate change, it mentioned also that we need to build resilient communities. And I've mentioned the coastal communities suffering from coastal erosion and all of that, and rehabilitating our water bodies and all of that. So,
okay, so these are already points you feel you have made. For you, Dr. Kokofu?
Yes, it is already on. KMA is undertaking some projects at the KVIP projects, providing these sanitation, toilet facilities and all that. It is also the case that every household must have its own toilet, whilst we're trying to discard the public toilet systems and then improving upon. When I was in office, I used to undertake inspection at petrol filling stations, service stations. Most of them do not have these toilet facilities for customers to use. So going forward, we need to do that kind of engineering works during constructions, the built environment, providing...
Thank you, Dr. Kokofu. In the next round, though these are my little bits to both of you, and so these also will be about 30, 40-second responses. You will be starting, Dr. Kokofu started at the first round. But my quick bit to you on the last round, you mentioned space tech. Were you referring to satellites? And then you spoke about water, reducing water costs. How are you going to do that? By the wave of a magic wand? The GWCL has been struggling with that. Quick response?
Thank you. So by saying space science, I don't mean only satellite, but of course satellite product is part of the space science technology. Okay. We also have the processing. So once we procure an image from satellite, you can process it for specific use. For example, if the transportation or road network need to be understudied, it can be used, that image can be processed for the use. So we have signal processing as part of
reducing water costs.
All of the reducing water costs. Government will, this is very distracting. So government will liaise with, will explore a private partnership with government, with public, and ensure that we have the reduced water costs.
Okay,
We're going to improve the technologies that will help with the supply of water as well.
Public-private partnerships.
Exactly.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Kokofu, you made, just a short while ago, you spoke about every household having a toilet. Yeah. I do recall that, the vice president, before he became vice president, spoke about toilets for every household, water for every household, and all of that. You rightly mentioned $79 million needed, 1 million latrines. Yeah. It's taken 8 years. Is it now that we are going to be able to do this? The former Works and Housing Minister, Samuel Atachia, made mention of this to the people of Nima. What happened?
No, it's ongoing. It started and it's ongoing. We need to finish it up. That's why there's a need to have him as the president, so that the commitment that he has, we'll see to the end.
After 8 years, that couldn't be achieved.
No, it's ongoing.
But when he becomes president, he'll be able to achieve it.
It's being started and it's ongoing. I told you at KMA, at AMA, it's ongoing, and you can verify. We having this project on, each household having toilet, being subsidized by the district assemblies and the metropolitan assemblies, and so there's a need to enhance it.
Thank you, Dr. Kokofu.
So once he becomes president, we will see to the finish.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now proceeding to round 2, focusing on implementation and financing. All the fanciful, the lovely things they've been talking about. How are they going to generate funds for them? I remember Dr. Kokofu talking about Garrett and some $350 million. But I'll start with you, Prof. In terms of implementation and financing, will your administration consider creating a separate ministry of water and sanitation, or enhancing the existing institutional frameworks to prioritize WASH? Now, if not, what alternative approaches do you have to ensure effective policy implementation?
Thank you very much. I think His Excellency John Dramani Mahama had already made a pronouncement that he will scrap off the Ministry of Sanitation. We know what has happened in the country. So we believe that sanitation doesn't... You don't want me to go into the Cecilia Dapa issue.
Oh, that's what you mean?
Yes, so we don't want to go into that. But the point I want to make is that sanitation doesn't stand on its own. So we're going to work together with the environment and science and technology, because we need the science, we need the technology to also implement the WASH as well. So it's going to be integrated into the Environment Ministry and Science and Technology Ministry to strengthen it in that sense. So that's it. You want more?
Oh, no, you have your time, so if you're done, you're done.
Yeah, so exactly based on on your question, I think this is the best answer I can give you.
Okay, so you're going to couch that as a focus as far as WASH is concerned.
Yeah, so you asked a very specific question.
Indeed.
And if we are going to remain or retain what is already there,
or
create a new one. So that's what exactly I'm explaining. That instead of retaining what is there, GM had already made a pronouncement of going to scrap it off and then rather integrate it into the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, because we believe that WASH should not stand alone. It should be part of science, it should be part of technology, or technology as a solution for WASH, and also it's an environmental problem as well. Right. So it's going to be integrated.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Kokofu.
Yes, the New Patriotic Party government considers WASH as a very critical priority area. So it has indicated that it will promulgate and establish National Sanitation Authority that will align with all the sectors, health, water, hygiene, and all those things to bring it to fore. And then also strengthen the existing community water sanitation agency. Indeed, it's doing a wonderful job providing these services to the rural communities where engineer rightly pointed out to us. So the water supply, the rural water supply systems is very much key. So CWSA will be resourced and recapacitated, and then the National Sanitation Authority will be established to oversee all that. As with the ministry, the prerogative resides in the president, because he has promised that he will be dealing with 50 ministers. Right. So we do not know what will happen there, during the arrangement. But you can be assured that when it comes to WASH, Dr. Bawumia's government is very much committed to enhancing and then prioritizing its effectiveness.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
That every Ghanaian is not left out.
All right. Let's quickly go to the next bit. So even as we talk about financing, how does your party plan to finance large-scale, and I recall that you made mention of some of these, large-scale water and sanitation projects, particularly for rural, if you go back to engineer's question, for rural and underserved urban communities? What are your innovative funding mechanisms that you're going to bring to bear? Prof.
Yeah, thank you. I think the NDC in the manifesto had mentioned funding and partnership as that's the mention. So I mentioned earlier on the public-private partnership to finance most of the initiative that is pertaining to WASH. And we also have the international collaboration that will help strengthen or achieve the SDG goal number 6 as well. So, of course, we don't have the magic wand, as you said, but we need to work at it. So we need to work judiciously with private organizations, international collaborations, as I mentioned earlier on. But particularly...
When you say private organizations, do you have any target organizations you're hoping to work with?
Not that I can mention now, but particularly cutting the waste in government and to improve or support the local government system to be able to have the development that we need for WASH at that level.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof. Dr. Kokofu, large-scale projects require large-scale financial support. How is your party planning to do this, especially in serving rural and underserved communities? How are you going to innovate to raise money?
Well, existing private entities that invest in WASH services will be incentivized, and then other benefits given to them.
Existing ones like which ones?
Existing ones, like Zoom Lion, just one group of companies, they are all in there. There are a lot more. And then we will pursue with diligence climate financing mechanisms and instruments through the launching and implementation of the Climate Prosperity Plan. It's in there, and WASH has a space there. We also leverage on private capital and expertise in that sector. And I've just mentioned that there is this Australian professor who has the funding as a grant to give to nations, and Ghana was able to win that kind of thing far back in COP28, and it's about $29 million to be put in. The Vice President office is working very hard on that. We also strengthened state institutions alongside, like the district assemblies, metropolitan assemblies. There is this law that decentralization of their finances, that will give them the leverage. We strengthen the fiscal capacity of local government. And under that, we will implement policies aimed at strengthening the fiscal capacity of MMDAs to deepen and drive their cost. And they will have money through the local government finance bill law that will be promulgated to give them money to do most of these investments.
Where will the money come from that will go to local government?
Well, they will have their priorities. They will be doing their budgeting at that level. And so once WASH is said to be a priority area, they will surely find the money there. And then we also be looking at carbon smart investments, like the one I showed you. The idea is to do automatic chlorination of borehole water and then UV disinfection. This one will allow taking away the boiling of water as a disinfection mechanism, where you save wood. Once saving wood, your carbon footprint will be saved, so low carbon. And that can be calculated and put on the carbon market where you can find money in there. So carbon market has been established under the EPA, that's the Carbon Market Office, where the government has also established the carbon finance department or division with the finance ministry. So there are a whole lot of carbon smart financing mechanisms available that can bring in the needed fund. And then cutting down costs through ensuring efficient and effective prompt delivery of services.
Okay, yeah. All right. Thank you very much. But even as we talk about these boreholes and the rest, we have illegal mining and its effects seeping into the soil as well. And chlorination cannot take away that. So it would be interesting to find out what the moves would be from there. But moving to the next point then, capacity building, the adoption of innovative technologies. What role would that play in the implementation of your WASH programs, harnessing technology?
Thank you very much. I was going to bring in at some point the fact that education, if the people are educated, it also helps reduce costs on implementation. Because when people are aware, they know how to go about their everyday life. So in the NDC manifesto, we had said we're going to include in the curriculum WASH into our education curriculum, where we teach students about hygiene. We have bits and pieces in there, but then we don't have it in the curriculum as much as we want to have it taught in school. So integrating that or supporting that with the technologies that we need to bring on board. We need to, as I said earlier on, integrate all these policies into our education system. So we have programs studied. We already have the University of Health and Allied Sciences at O. So we should expand as much as possible into the other universities, programs on WASH and technologies that will help with WASH. So as I said, it's going to be integrated with science, technology, and innovation. All of these things will be implemented here.
Enhanced from UHAS into other universities, public universities? Or you're looking at, because you've been talking about public-private partnership, are you looking at just the public universities? Are you looking at private universities as
yes,
well?
I think government doesn't have much control over the private universities, more of public first. And once the policy is out, interested private organizations can hook on to that. Another area that will support with technology and implementation is working with the NGOs and also international collaborators. Right. So once the goodwill is there on government side, we have interest that comes in to support and provide the implementation actions on those kind of policies. So we're hoping that we'll have a goodwill, and then we'll have the implementation rightly in the next NDC administration.
Thank you, Prof. Let me come to you, Dr. Kokofu. Same point.
Yeah, the question again.
So capacity building, the adoption of innovative technologies, and infusing that into the implementation of your WASH programs. How are you basically going to harness tech in dealing with the WASH situation?
Yes, it boils down with knowledge acquisition, and so education is key.
Okay.
And it's important to note that we have 5.3 million young Ghanaians that are undertaking the free SHS. So they are well equipped and they are ready and prepared, and they do know exactly what WASH is as we speak today. And to interest you to know that the GS over the years have incorporated, together with EPA when I was in office, we've incorporated these environmental education systems with emphasis on WASH in our schools, and it is very much ongoing. On the side of technology and innovation, the artificial intelligence application, it comes in hand. The digitalization agenda comes in hand. If you are talking about online monitoring and auto-chlorination of treated water for rural folks and for the general public, then it means you need people to understand and to be able to come to speed with the concept of digitalization. So the government have already said that, it's ongoing, but the next government by Bawumia, he has said that we train over 1 million Ghanaians in this digitalization space. And you'll be assured that WASH is given a much priority in this area. So the application of this technology and the AIs will be quite on hand.
Okay.
Then we are in a situation where people will want to see everything as a waste. The digitalized systems and the innovative systems will give room to reuse of materials. So wastewater can be treated and will be treated for reuse purposes. And all these will enhance the quality and the availability of water in the system. With the other areas of health facilities, healthcare facilities that need to incorporate WASH in there. The private sector will be encouraged through the PPP, the Public-Private Partnership Act, Act 1039 of 2020, where provisions are made for private investments to come in. And Dr. Bawumia's government have said that his government will cut down government expenditure by 3% of GDP. That will amount to 30 billion Ghana cedis, and these monies will be made available to private sector investors who are ready to go in there. And you'll be assured that WASH investors will be given priorities in there. So funds will be available for them to do these investments, and then ensure that we have WASH for all.
Thank you very much, and that is the end of our second round of questions, focusing more on how these projects, these lofty promises, are going to be financed by both the NDC, if they get the nod, or the MPP, if they get the nod. Engineer Oduro, I'll start with you this time as far as the judges are concerned. Quick, concise thoughts, and lady and gentlemen, you have a minute and a half to respond. I may add a little time if I feel there is the need for that. A minute and a half. Engineer Oduro.
Okay, so I think, well, again, they have articulated the issues very well, and I hope that when they come into power, they will actually actualize them.
That's where the devil is.
I have a question. First, I want to acknowledge that Mr. Kokofu, for the issue he raised about NSC, that has been one of our passions. And we think that that is an agency that is missing within the line of
the National Sanitation Authority.
Yes, and the fact that, their government, when they come to power, will want to institute that. That is a very, very good, intention that they have put forward. But then had to do with funding. NGOs, development partners are committed to support the national community water and sanitation program. The challenge is government commitment to release funds to support, to augment what they bring. We signed onto SWA before the Coastal Compact, signed onto SWA. Government commitment was not too much forthcoming. So I wanted to know what will be their commitment to ensure that WASH commitments this time are fulfilled.
Okay, that's your question. Are you done?
Yes.
I'll start with you, Prof.
So I think the whole issue of funding is what the WASH or the sanitation area has suffered in the past. I remember in the very past growing up, we had this town council who will come to our homes and all of that. The NDC proposes to have community-based financing model and also have decentralization, I mentioned it earlier on, so that we can have very specific or pay very specific attention to the issues of WASH. And still in terms of financing, if we integrate WASH into our climate policies, it makes it easier to assess climate finance to support WASH activities as well. So the global climate finance we can assess as a country. We have the Green Climate Fund. When we position ourselves appropriately, we have the national, adaptation fund. We have so many other sources of funds, some from World Bank and some from different agencies.
But he's asking basically, is the commitment there?
The commitment is, I mentioned the goodwill, that once the goodwill of government is there, we have the private, we have the developmental agencies, we have the NGOs coming on board to support with the implementation.
Okay, thank you. That same question for Doc as well. Right?
Yes.
Doc, quickly on that.
Yes, I'll begin by saying climate change effects have had very, very strong telling on finances of developing countries, including Ghana. At the Climate Vulnerable Forum, we did a computation and got to know that loss and damage alone amounted to $560 billion when you divide it across 48 countries that form the CDF. However, the total debt burden of these countries amount to $600 billion. So you can see that, but for not climate effects, loss and damage, these economies would have been doing well. So having gotten to that, we've been able to negotiate with the global north through the COP28 and its antecedent meetings, that there's a need to look at these countries, their need to fight climate change through resilience, moving away from vulnerability to resilience and to prosperity. So within the Climate Prosperity Plan, there's a portion in there that deals with financing mechanism for issues like WASH. So we do well, but Umia's government will do well to get attraction to that. And then also the adoption and full implementation of the National Strategy for WASH, IPC, for the 8 years, has been able to attract foreign interest. Okay. And then the government, the next government, is going to save 3% of GDP. And 30 billion will be available.
Okay,
so government will be ready and prepared to be
Thank you, Dr. Kokofu.
With that part
can I put a challenge? Debate.
This has to be very brief.
Yeah,
very brief.
Just to mention that the Climate Vulnerability Forum is not an achievement, and Ghana doesn't even fall under the countries that qualify for such. It's for the less or least developed countries and most vulnerable countries. Ghana is in a middle income country, and we don't qualify.
Lower middle income.
So.
No. But Ghana is a member of the forum, and I know at least whether I don't know about currently, but in the past our president has been.
Let me put it in perspective. Let me put it in perspective. The CVF comprises of 48 countries, and these countries from Africa, Caribbean, whatever, Asia and all that. And Ghana won the presidency at Glasgow, and she was there when I was the leader of the
That is not the point. It's about whether we have access to funding.
We have access. Indeed, we have the headquarters here in Ghana. The Secretary General is here in Ghana. Ghana had to trade off the headquarters.
Dr. Kofu, for the sake of time, so we have access. How much have we got from that fund so far?
No, you see, it is not a fund. It is a climate vulnerable forum.
You're not getting...
It's not a fund.
I'm saying I know it's a forum. You are saying that we can tap into a certain fund. And I'm saying, how much have we got from there?
We can tap into the International Green Funding, and then the CVF is encouraging CPPs. That's Climate Prosperity Plan.
So you can't pinpoint how much we've got from it so far.
Of which Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Ghana, we have completed our own.
All right, thank you very much.
Once you get a commitment, you'll be able to attract...
Basilia, what interests me, and just to maybe a precedent to your coming in, is that oftentimes we talk about, oh, we need to deal with climate change and all of that, and we need money, especially from the West. I was at, one of these fora before, I think, COP26 or 27 in the Netherlands, and it is clear that they are not forthcoming. The United States, the European countries are not forthcoming, yet we keep sitting and saying that, oh, we are waiting for them to give us money to solve challenges that we have right now. $79 million is what you need to deal with a situation when it comes to open defecation. 1 million latrines. Yet we sit down and we want someone to give us money before we solve that problem. I don't see how that makes sense, but that is what we've done ad infinitum. Your thoughts? Any questions?
Yeah, so maybe taking from that and where Mr. Odro also mentioned, we have a number, or we've had a number of taxes that came up in the past, like the plastic pollution, and now we have the sanitation pollution levy, which the wash sector players like us thought that some of these funding could be channeled into sanitation. Besides this, because our sector, among the services sector, is one of the least funded. If you talk about the services, education, health is the least funded. And the GDP is supposed to be 5%, but we keep reducing. So what can you do to tap into these already existing sources of funding to support the wash sector? Because we shouldn't wait for climate change, but these are things that we could tap into.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go straight.
Sure, thanks. Yes, I believe the taking sanitation levy from Ghanaians should have a targeted solution.
Sanitation levy?
Yes, we have the sanitation levy.
The already existing or
yeah, the one that we're already paying.
Okay.
We're paying that. So that, I believe, should not go into the central government coffers, or it should be directed directly towards solutions for WASH. But then that is not the case at the moment. So she's right. We need to put the levies, whatever revenue we get from there, appropriately into solving the WASH challenges that we have in the country. We have also the plastic levies, as you said. And so we believe that government should be refocused, especially in terms of financing very specific sector where we take specific levies for. So, as I said, NDC is committed. You remember the National Sanitation Day during the John Mahama administration. So all of these, where we had one Saturday in a month to clean up our various places in the country. So we have demonstrated in the past many of these commitments, and the NDC will continue to commit to WASH when it comes to power.
Dr. Kokofu.
Well, it is easy to say and talk about levies. Economically, that is it, the polluter pays principle. But you and I know the constraint within our sector. So we are not paying the realistic levies that can cater for. So there's the need for central government to find money within these constraints, fiscal constraints. That is why I keep on saying that the next president, God be so good, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has emphasized that there's the need to liberate government from certain expenditures. And he has proposed the cutting of 3% of GDP that will amount to 30 billion US dollars, 30 billion Ghana cedis. And these monies will be available for critical prioritized areas like WASH, where private sector investment will be encouraged to go in there. And it does not become more or less a government to do. Because if teachers at the education sector, if nurses and doctors at the medical sector are all looking for money and they are on the neck of government, strike here, strike there, and there's little financing there between investing in WASH and then paying the salary of teachers. Obviously, you may want to go to payment of salary. So there must be extra release of funds. And this initiative will release funds for WASH.
All right, we're going to have to cap it off here. Thank you, Basilia. Thank you, Engineer Donko, as well. Now for round 3, having spoken about the vision and the policy, having spoken about financing and implementation, in round 3, we're going to be looking at local partnerships and measurable outcomes. Whom are they going to partner with at the local level, district assemblies, NGOs, and what are the outcomes that they can forecast? What is the plan? We're going to look at those. When we return, after all of that, there'll also be a question and answer session with our audience. You don't want to miss that. You want to share your thoughts with us as well so that we can put the questions to our debaters. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It is still the manifesto debate. The two giants are slugging it out here in our studios, NDC, NPP. What do they have for us when it comes to water, sanitation, hygiene, and again, climate change? We get into the last belt, but let me acknowledge WaterAid Ghana for sponsoring this, for helping us to bring you this manifesto debate. Our judges are still here. We're going to have a brief Q&A should time allow us to do that. But this time, since it's the third time, I'll come back to you. I'll be starting with you, Dr. Kokofu. And we go to our very first bit. As an NPP administration, assuming Ghanaians give Dr. Bawumia the nod, how will your administration empower district assemblies to prioritize WASH services in planning, budgeting? What specific support will you be providing, especially at the local level?
Well, there's the need to deepen the fiscal decentralization in line with the 1992 Constitution. That's the laws governing mobilization of additional resources from the capital markets to finance local level economically viable projects, including WASH. So the government under Dr. Bawumia will encourage the MMDAs to do that, just that. And then also,
will this be outside of the district assembly setting?
Yes, it will be outside the district assembly common fund. That's what you want to talk about. Yes, this will allow, once you get this thing through, it will allow to free the district assembly common fund to do other things. So this is an innovative way of financing them, and that is their budget lines. But then we also encourage them to continuously go ahead with the collaboration with sister cities across the globe, where they are having technical support and then financial support as well. Their relationship with CSOs like WaterAid and others will also have to be looked at and strengthened at that level. And then the central government, of course, will provide the needed monitoring and evaluation to see the implementation of these things. And we have got to ensure. So the people within the various districts, municipal, and then the metropolitan assemblies will have money for value. The private sector involvement at that level must also be strengthened. And reduce corruption, if not completely out of the place. Heavily reduce corruption in the system, and then also ensure that recycling, reuse, and of resources are undertaken within that level.
You got me smiling in my head when you said reduce corruption, if not nip it completely in the bud. That is a debate for another day. Yes, Prof.
Yes, thank you. So the NDC will collaborate with institutions like WaterAid and other NGOs and both local partners and international partners to provide training programs for the district officials and planners on WASH, especially service delivery, budgeting, and project management. So that is one. In the manifesto, it's also stated that we provide technical assistance. So NDC will be providing technical support to the district assemblies, and this is very important to improve upon their expertise.
How are you providing this technical support?
We'll collaborate with existing institutions, NGOs, and as I said, private partners to provide the support as well, institutions that have the technical know-how. Financial support, I mentioned earlier on that the NDC will increase their budget allocation to at the district's level or MMDC's level. So we are committing to increasing the budget allocation as well. We will have performance-based grants, which the NDC proposed to introduce this, and that will incentivize the districts to meet their specific WASH targets in those districts. So I believe that with all of the training, I mentioned that education is key in cutting costs and saving lives, and so we will go the route of training and building the capacity of the district assemblies to implement the WASH programs or targets.
What I find interesting is that both of them are saying they are going to work to create more funding for WASH for climate change from the budget. Time will tell. The next question, how do you plan to engage and work with international organizations? And we've spoken about some of this already, so don't belabor the point, straight to the point. Like WaterAid, like national NGOs, to scale up water and sanitation service delivery, and what will this collaboration look like? Give us a snapshot, straight to the point. Dr. Kokofu.
Well, strengthen the relationship with the development partners and other non-state actors like USAID, DANIDA, DFID, WaterAid, and all that. We have, as a point of interest, fully endorsed and adopted the joint position paper produced by WaterAid Ghana and Ghana Youth Environment Movement based on their climate adaptation strategy. So it's a good news that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has acknowledged the work of WaterAid and allied NGOs or CSOs to be able to incorporate whatever you're thinking and you are looking at. We also have water, sanitation, and hygiene manifesto prepared by WaterAid. We've taken cognizance of that, and we're going to fully endorse it and be committed to that, so you can be fully assured. My boss is ready to work with you in this aspect and all other CSOs and NGOs to ensure that by 2030, as we've all agreed and known, we will be able to. And then the most important thing is the president of Ghana, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, signing the presidential compact. And the presidential compact is head of states. It's an initiative by head of states to come together for countries that develop their own homegrown WASH activities and projects. So they come to support. We have the UK Foreign Affairs Commonwealth Development Office, the Netherlands government, UNICEF, and Sanitation and Water for All Partnerships, and IRS WASH. So all these things come into play, and we will have a very, very positive front.
Thank you, Doc. Let me come to you, Prof. Collaborations, international, local, NGOs, others, service delivery.
Yeah, so it's important to identify problems together if you're working in partnership with others. So the NDC plans to have joint assessment, that is to conduct joint needs assessment to identify the gaps and opportunities. We believe that the NGOs are very close to the people and very close to the, I would say, the problems or the challenges we are dealing with. And government has the political will, has the international goodwill as well. So putting the two partners together will ensure that we are implementing the right policies that will help with WASH. So we're going to engage a lot the NGOs and the international partners as well in this process. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let's go to our final bit. By the end of your terms, what specific targets, measurable outcomes, deliverables will your governments achieve to advance Ghana's progress towards SDG Goal 6? And that has to do specifically with ensuring water and sanitation for all. That's one only God can tell. Dr. Kokofu.
Yes, the commitment has already been made, and the leader of New Patriotic Party has emphasized that. And we do know, we have data as to the levels that we do have. About 88% water coverage in the country. So it will be in the interest of...
Which entity conducted the survey?
The 88% water coverage. I think water aid you have.
The Standard Statistical Service.
GSS.
The Ghana Statistical
Yes,
Service.
GSS.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can cross-check whatever I give out there.
The GSS.
Yes. So,
87.
yes. So,
Population
under
Factor
President Akufo-Addo, Ghana has 88% water coverage in this country. And it is in the interest of the incoming president that we will build on that. So it will not be far-fetched if he reach 100% by his second term in office. And then, again, there are data and statistics on wash within the healthcare delivery facilities, which is woefully inadequate, admittedly. And that is why I've said that the adoption, we have adopted and will fully implement the National Strategy for WASH IPC in healthcare facilities.
Okay.
And that one, whatever the levels are, we are sure to double the percentage by close of day. But by way of closing, let me say that we need to embark on national behavioral change, attitude. We will be doing all these things. We'll be talking, we'll be pumping in the monies, the funds. If you don't change our attitudes as a people, so the next government would take key interest in helping Ghanaians to reshape our thinking and attitude. You target school children.
I think your point has been made. Education. Let's come to Prof. Final thoughts. At least your reflections on that matter, and if you have any final thoughts, this would be the time.
Yes, I believe the country has a sanitation and water target by 2030, and to achieve the SDG 6 goal, that is having sustainable basic water and sanitation service for all by 2030. We are in 2024. Next year, the new administration is starting at 2025. Which makes it or give us only 5 years to reach to 2030. So we need to have ambitious efforts towards achieving this target. This, I want to premise my submission based on what has been achieved already by the NDC. So if we had steadily expanded on the water supply systems that the NDC provided in the past, we would have been very close to achieving the goal of this sanitation by 2030. So the NDC is still committed in increasing the coverage of water access and improving on sanitation of the country. The NDC manifesto, or John Dramani Mahama, had mentioned working 24 hours with the 24-hour economy initiative, and mentioned that our sanitation in the cities, in the urban areas, will be collected most of the time during the night hours when people are still in bed, and that will help improve the sanitation, especially in our urban cities.
Thank you very much, Prof. Doc. Before I fully acknowledge you, I'll come quickly to the judges. One question each. We take brief responses and we have to go. So who goes first? Basilia, Dr. Donko?
I missed it.
Okay, right. Engineer Donko, I beg your pardon. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think the two of them have spoken very well about how they are going to raise funds for the district assembly to support WASH, initiatives. But one thing they haven't actually told us is the fact that currently as a development entity, they have not been given that mandate to mandatory plan for WASH and implementation. Right. How are their parties going to do that to strengthen, because we have only five years to reach the SDGs. And we can't depend on only Ghana Water and Community Water and Sanitation. Right. We need other agencies that would augment their role. How would they do that to get us to where we have to get?
We're going to take the second question together so that when they answer once, it is done. Basilia.
Okay, so they've been mentioning water, and the access to water is good. What measures would they put in place to increase sanitation? We are only 25%. We are that one, we are woefully inadequate.
Right.
And then we still have 17% open defecation. What are the measures?
And you need $5 million every year if we want to reach the goal of sanitation by 2030.
And we cannot say that we as a country cannot do $5 million every year. But Dr. Kokofu, you have the first bite. Let's do 1 minute each, and it's a wrap.
Yeah, please, your question again.
I'm saying sanitation is still woefully backwards.
Yeah.
We are just 25% achieving sanitation, unlike water. And 17% of Ghanaians still defecating in the open. What measures are we undertaking?
Yes, before the government took over, we had close to 25% Ghanaians doing the open defecation, and it's been reduced to 17%. And then the sanitation achievement has also been encouraged. I mean, it has been improved from, I think, 13% to 25%. I'm not too sure. So it tells you that the government has taken steps. There's the need for continuity. It is possible we'll get there, but there's the need for continuity in government. So we'll be able to continuously and pursue and vigorously pursue that agenda of getting it.
Right.
And in this case, you strengthen EPA, you strengthen CSW. I'm answering your question. You strengthen Community Water Sanitation Agency. Then, in addition, you bring on board National Sanitation Authority.
Okay.
To be able to help coordinate and all that.
Thank you, Doctor.
And then also having working
Thank you, Dr. Kokofu.
CSOs, NGOs, and other non-state actors.
Talking. Thank you. So maybe I'll start with your issue on how we are going to empower existing and local institutions. I mentioned earlier on that we'll do a joint assessment and assess the gaps and opportunities. So once we are defining together, we are in a process of providing the solutions together. You are close to the people. You have the technical know-how. Government has the political will, has the goodwill as well to support. So together, we can implement the WASH targets that we want to achieve. The NDC's proposal in improving the funds to the district assembly level is basically towards the hygiene part, more of the hygiene part than the water supply part, the sanitation part. So I mentioned KVIP at the very beginning, if we are able to increase the support that will go into the local government budget. And I believe that will go specifically to support sanitation at the local, the training and all of that are to support sanitation more than the water supply, because government is going to do the water supply with developing partners.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, all of you viewers. This has been our manifesto debate on WASH, water sanitation and hygiene, and climate change. Now we leave it to you. You decide whether these two, which one of them has convinced you, which one of their policies and implementation you agree with. And I'd like to salute our judges today. Engineer Odro Donko, he's with ProNet Africa, and Basilia Nambigne, Executive Secretary Koniwas. She also joined this panel. Debaters, Professor Nanama Brown Kluche, member of the NDC's Natural Resources, Mining and Science Committee. Thank you so much for doing us the honors. And from the NPP's end, he's a member of the NPP's Manifesto Committee and also former member of Parliament for Bantama, Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu. Thank you, sir, for joining the conversation. We couldn't have done it without you, our viewers. Thank you for watching as well. We thank Stephen, our timekeeper. And this is how we are going to have to sew it up here. But the discussion continues ahead of election 2024. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for watching.